Hello and welcome to this episode. We will be tactically analysing Tottenham Hotspur versus West Ham United. I actually really wanted to analyse the postponed games between Chelsea and Tottenham, as well as also Arsenal and Reading, but of course those have been postponed, so my scheduling is a little bit off. Anyway, this was an excellent game, obviously a derby. Spurs had something to prove. They've obviously had really great form this season. They were beaten by West Ham earlier in the season with a 1-0 win for West Ham. Before we get into the analysis, if you enjoy the video, please give it a like, consider sharing it on social media as well as subscribing, and with that, let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to start off with Tottenham Hotspur typically building up in a 2-3-2-3 shape. So that 2-3-2-3 progressed into midfield possession as well. Key components of Tottenham's play were their narrow forwards. So we see that here with both Ayan as well as also Naz. What they're looking to try and do is exploit the space in behind the two wide centre-backs when Tang drops off. On this occasion, we've got a long ball by Leet. So Leet was doing this throughout the game, constantly kicking these long goal kicks in towards the left-hand side. On that side, they're going to have the two forwards for West Ham, Justice Tier, forgive me for butchering that name, as well as also Walker pulling towards that side. They're looking to try and combine with Svitkova, the left wing back, and also Longhurst. And from there, what they want to do is try and get around the outside of Tottenham typically. So we see some of that here with Svitkova out in this wide space, the target for that long ball. You've got Longhurst in that pocket, and then you've got Walker up front leading the line, and then Stringer here as the CDM trying to cover across as the West Ham play breaks down. Note also the fact that West Ham are trying to commit players far side too, so when they were attacking, they were trying to attack with numbers. This allowed them then, once the attack broke down, to try and counter press, as we see here with Stringer. Okay, so the play is just broken down for West Ham. You have quite a nice cushion ball by Neville back into a forward here with Ayan, and you've got Tottenham looking to try and spring an attack. You've got Percival, absolutely great player. She's in the CAM role, and she, just like Green, are looking to almost play 8s when Tottenham are in possession. They're looking to try and drive beyond Tang, run into those half spaces, try and take advantage of Tang dropping and pulling a West Ham centre-back higher up the pitch towards Tottenham's half. Oh, this was also a facet of Tottenham's play. You've got a deep runner in Neville, a lot more adventurous than the far-sided left-back Harrop. So Neville throughout the game was making runs like this, twisting her forward or her marker inside out and then popping off little balls to supporting players such as Maeve Clemeron or maybe Green, or maybe even Percival a little bit higher up, and then from there they were able to just kind of cut West Ham to ribbons and hopefully get a ball into the likes of Naz or Ayan running in behind. This kind of run was similar to the runs that Naz made as well, where she would receive the ball and West Ham players would try and collapse on her, but her first touch was really nice, pushing it beyond them, and then from there she used her pace to just burst away, and you had Tottenham on the front foot with momentum. Okay, so we've got Clemeron. She's played a nice little pass into Tang, who's dropping off as we mentioned. You've got Percival making that run as a CAM, trying to run beyond her centre forward, and then you've got your narrow forwards here. So here's Naz on this left hand side, and then you're going to have Ayan on the right, and they're looking to try and take advantage of Tang's momentum dropping and pulling a centre back with her, whether that's Flaherty or Sissoko. In this situation, they're going to look to try and exploit that space in behind. Okay, so in this occasion we see Flaherty was the one that had tracked Tang, whilst Sissoko had stayed to try and sweep, and we've got Percival running beyond her centre forward as well as also the narrow forwards for Tottenham. I like this sequence because it showed Tottenham trying to play quite direct football, but then it also shows West Ham, defending that and then trying to spring their own counter-attack. So we see that here with Svitkova out in the wide space after receiving a nice cushion pass from Sissoko. She's got a CDM tracking across to try and give her an option. You've got Longhurst making a run inside, and then you're going to have on this left-hand side either Justice or Walker trying to make a run beyond the defensive line of Tottenham, as well as also a player trying to take the attention centrally too. But again, West Ham on the counter-attack, looking to try and commit players, not only trying to commit players, but they're trying to commit players rather narrow in a channel. So we see that here. Unfortunately, the play breaks down. Neville is able to lay off to Clemeron, and we kind of go through the same cycle again. We see Tang dropping off, a centre-back tracking her, and then you've got Percival trying to follow up the play. Unfortunately for West Ham, Sissoko gets herself 2 yellow cards and is given marching orders. But actually, West Ham continue to play in that very similar way as we just described, where they're looking to try and get out into those channels, try and play quite direct, commit players up the pitch. I think at this point, instead of Sissoko central, obviously she's been sent off, we've got Parker, and she's flanked, of course, by Flaherty and Fisk. But again, West Ham, they've just got the ball back and they're looking to try and immediately drive up the channel, here in this case with Svitkova. You've got Vine instead of Stringer as the CDM. There's a little bit of pressing here with Addison, but overall, like, I'd say that Tottenham pressed in a 4-2-3-1 shape, but generally speaking, West Ham United were happy to just kick it long. So we didn't see too much of Tottenham pressing this game, although I would say that both teams tried to counter press when they could. West Ham because they had numbers high up the pitch, and Tottenham would try and press West Ham on the few occasions when they did play it short from the keeper. West Ham in this occasion are able to play really direct football, taking advantage of the numbers that Tottenham have committed higher up the pitch to try and press. Bryn Justitia at this point isn't really playing as a second centre forward, but more of a CAM or maybe a centre midfielder, right-sided centre midfielder. She's dropped, she's able to receive this ball from Svitkova, and they're able to play quite quickly, quite easily out towards these wide spaces. And as I said, just as in the first half, they're looking to try and take advantage of their formation and get out into these wide spaces. And you can see that here with the runner. So despite having 10 players, West Ham looking to try and be dynamic, quick, counter-attack, trying to take advantage of the spaces left by the fact that Tottenham were just pressing higher up the pitch. By committing as many numbers as they could, it did allow them to then create spaces more central. So we see that with this quite nice run here that pulls Green away, which allows this space for Longhurst to try and take advantage of. On this occasion, the run by, I believe this is Evans, into this space, it doesn't really connect with Longhurst, which is passed because it's just a little bit too long. But again, you can see how West Ham, by committing players, by being dynamic, by running into those channels, are trying to take advantage of a bit of disorganisation in transition. And just as earlier in the game, they're committing players higher up the pitch, far side. Again, we've got numbers. Just as we saw in the previous scenario, we've got numbers from West Ham. Okay, so the ball went out and Spencer was able to play it from the back. Okay, so we've got that 2-3 again. We've got, at this point, Green is the sole CDM, and she's paired with Percival, at least in a defensive shape, but Percival is expected to try and contribute to the attack as well. Here we've got Tang dropping off, similar to that first half, but now she's sharing that role with Williams. So when Tang drops off, then Williams is going to try and take up the centre forward role, and then, you know, vice versa. So Tang tried a nice little flick around the corner for Addison. Unfortunately, it didn't come off. Notice here again, we've got Ayan very narrow central, looking for that potential ball over the top. Williams is holding that centre forward role. West Ham, in their defensive shape now, instead of a 5-3-2, they instead have a 5-3-1 shape. Okay, so you've got your midfield three that Tottenham would try and switch the ball around. So they would try and play it down one flank, and then as that midfield three came across, then they would try and switch it to the other flank and try and just get around them so that then they could abuse their numbers versus the wing back. The West Ham players were still trying to be aggressive. We see that here with Svitkova, who intercepts the slightly inaccurate pass by Tang, and she tries to immediately, you know, go forwards. Unfortunately, Svitkova's touch goes eventually towards Neville, and Neville does what she's really great at here, and she just kind of sidesteps the pressure from Walker, who's tried to press from Tang towards Neville. And then Addison, seeing that, looks to try and you know, take advantage of the fact that once Neville gets into this space, that's going to ask Svitkova to try and come across and put some more pressure on Neville, and that'll leave more space for Addison out in that wide space. Okay, so we see that driving run from Ashley Neville. She tries to pop it off, just as mentioned before. We've got Ayan making a run in behind, trying to stretch and pull the West Ham defence deeper. And you've got Tang and Williams in the centre forward and CAM roles. Unfortunately for Tottenham, West Ham are able to stop that attack, and they immediately look to try and be aggressive again, but just as before, they're a little bit sloppy, and Tottenham are able to regain possession. Whilst on these couple of occasions West Ham was sloppy, I do think that their most dangerous attacks did come when they were aggressive and played the ball early into those channels. Okay, so Tottenham play the ball out towards that left-hand side, and just as we mentioned before, they try and drag West Ham towards one side, and then they switch it back towards the right-hand side. Likely because Harrop isn't quite as adventurous or fleet of foot as Neville. At this point in the game, they were happy for Neville to push almost into a right midfield position. That would allow Addison to tuck inside a little bit more, take advantage of the ambiguity that her position will create between the left wing back and left centre back. And it also allows Neville to be able to try and combine out in this wide space with the CAM or centre forward, as well as also with Percival and whoever her forward is on that left-hand side. Again, we could see West Ham shape as well. So we've got that 5-3-1 with the back 5, as well as also this 3, and then you've got your centre forward. And as I said, once they came across to try and cover and help defend this right-hand side for them, then Tottenham switches it, and then now this 3 have to go and try and defend towards that left-hand side. The rest of this play was just very nice. You've got Percival taking up almost a centre forward position, and her deep centre midfield position being taken up by Williams. So you're getting a lot of fluidity here. We've got Tang in her preferred CAM role, and then you've got Ashley Neville in that right midfield with narrow forwards. Unfortunately, after Neville drives inside, the attack fizzles out, but this was really, really nice play by Tottenham. Okay, and with that, I think we covered the main points. Please have a look in the description as well as the comments down below for a full tactical summary. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, as well as consider sharing it on social media, maybe subscribing. And with that, we're out.